Shalom, everybody. Shalom, everybody. It's Leon the Servant back here with another video on this Yah blessed day. Today, I'm actually trying something out a little different, and the aspect that I want to do this live here, and then I want to take it down and edit it and things of that sort. So let's get to it. The topic at hand today is leadership. Right. And as I promised beforehand that I was going to do a course on leadership and breaking down some of the things that you will want to add onto your arsenal while actively leading. Right. So the first thing I think is important to do is to break down what it means to be a leader and what is leadership. We go over to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, and it reads leadership: the office or position of a leader, capacity to lead, the act or instance of leading. So I thought it was wise to finish this definition with going on to describe what it means to lead, right? Because if we're going to be taking on the embarkment of being a leader, we should know what it means to lead. And to lead, to guide on a way, especially by going in advance, to direct on a course or a direction, to serve as a channel for, to go through, to direct the operations, activity, or performance of, which by that definition, everyone is a leader of some capacity, right? Everyone has the ability to guide their own direction on how they see things fit. So leaders do not only pertain to people who are in charge of being a leader of organization, but it also pertains on to your day-to-day lives. I want to bring up this short clip about leading, right? And to change our common perspective others. And then we're going to get to the topic at hand on bottom lines, the very first thing that you need to keep in mind when leading, right? And I'm going to go over to Jocko Willink, which for those who don't know, he is a former Navy SEAL commander, and he has dealt with a lot of leading. And this is his sentiments about leading laterally. And practically that means leading amongst your peers, not up the chain of command or down from the chain of command, which means your supervisors or the people beneath you, as if you're a manager, the people right under you, right? So I want to play this and chime in if necessary.
You discuss leading and maneuvering up and down the chain of command, but what about laterally within your own peer group, where the competition for advancement is fiercest and your ability to set team objectives and implement some of the tools you discuss is limited?
So essentially, when we're leading amongst peers, we're inspiring people that we don't necessarily have charge over. How do you lead them? How do you guide them? How do you inspire them? How do you be a leader in a situation where you have no extra leverage? And Jocko is going to explain exactly how leadership doesn't change across the board. You're still going to employ the same tactics, and actually you're going to have to be a little bit more tactful on how you use these tactics. But being a leader is not the same connotation as being a boss, as someone who just barks orders, which, to be honest, it's actually very sad that that's how we view a boss. A boss is actually supposed to be a great leader. Is he not? Or she not? Right? So I want to let this continue. I want to let Jocko take it away.
Okay, so you absolutely do have to lead laterally amongst your peers. And since you don't have rank or position, you have to do it another way.
Mm-hmm.
But wait a second, since you shouldn't use rank or position to lead people below you in the chain of command, and since you don't want to be led by someone that's throwing their rank and position around, then guess what? You need to do the same type of leadership that you would use up and down the chain of command to lead your peers.
Whoa, that's very pivotal. See, when we lead amongst ourselves or amongst our peers, we're like, well, we don't have charge over them. We can't tell them what to do, right? But when we think about it, do we ever want someone who's above us in a chain of command just to bark orders at us and expect us to do it as if we're a robot, as if we're a program, as if we're an AI? And the answer is no. And just like how you don't want to lead like that when people are beneath you, because you understand that in this structure, right, that they are taking your commands, you don't want to just bark orders at them. There's a certain level of respect that is lost, right? So your leadership stays the same even amongst your peers. And I'm going to let Jocko finish on and bring that on, but that was a very pivotal point, very pivotal.
So what does that mean? That means you help them when you can. You support what they're doing. You try and build a relationship with them. That's what you try and do. Now, this part of this that we're talking about, the competitiveness. Like if they want to maneuver and try and make you look bad and jump in the spotlight and try and get all the credit, guess what? It's fine. That's fine. Let them do it. And everyone is going to see what they're doing.
Absolutely. That's another thing to think about. You know, we're commonly taught that we have to compete. We have to strive against the same people, even though we're in the same organization, working for the same purpose. We have to contend amongst the same people that we're supposed to call our colleagues, right? They have this saying that you keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. And before we even continue on with this, I want to bring up a scripture that allies and aligns with what he's saying, and the aspect that everyone else knows what's going on, and you're going to get your reward at the end. All right. So let me bring out Proverbs real quick. And it's this. Proverbs 25:21-22. If thy enemy be hungry, give him bread to eat. And if he be thirsty, give him water to drink. For thou shalt heap coals of fire upon his head, and the Lord shall reward thee. That's a very strong scripture right there. Let me blow it up for you guys. That's a very strong scripture right there. Essentially it says, let them compete. Let them strive against him. And as he said, help them when you can, right? Because essentially we have an organization that's working to one goal. We're supposed to be on one accord. If the job is done, the job is done. The Most High is not going to look at those things and say, oh, well, he just took it just to take it. That was this needless persecution, right? Because not every time is wise to lash out. And I also want to go to this real quick, and then we're going to get right back to the video. We're going to go to Proverbs 29, verse 11. A fool uttereth all his mind, but a wise man keep it until afterwards. You know, if someone is very hasty, be like, well, that we can't do it this way. We can't do it that way because of this and because of that and because of this and because of that, right? Instead of taking a second back and trying to compute and trying to understand. You know, there's always that one guy like, well, that's not possible, right? But the wise individual thinks, ponders, questions, and then speak, right? And it's very important when we move in leadership and understanding our bottom line, which is a topic at hand, on how to ascertain that bottom line, not to be so quick to toss out darts. All right. So let's get back to the video, and then I have some things I want to speak about the topic at hand.
And they might not see it immediately, but they will eventually be found out. So do your best to support them. Do your best to help them. Do your best to build the relationship. Make the mission the most important thing, not the little politics that you're about to dive into and get involved in. Don't make that the primary thing.
Absolutely. You have a goal, a mission, objective statement, and this is who you have to work with because you're in some corporation, right? Or because ego is getting to the better of them. Do not let pride creep in and destroy what you're trying to build. Very important when you're leading, right? Do not take everything to heart. Think critically about what is happening, what is being said. If they are not good for the mission or for the team, it shall be brought to the forefront. They're cutthroat and they do not support the ones around them. It will be made obvious that there is someone else that is the better option, because no company wants to keep the one who's always trying to diminish everyone else and contribute less. That is not who they're going to promote. All right. I'll keep going.
Make the primary thing accomplishing the mission. Think about this. If you start fighting with them, you're expending energy on fighting your own team. That's what you're doing. Instead of fighting the enemy. This is a blue on blue situation. This is friendly fire. It's fratricide. Don't do that. Disengage from the friendly fire and focus on how to make the team win.
Absolutely. So this also works on a personal level. Do not just take this as something that you can only have in the workspace. This happens on a level when you and your spouse. This happens when you're by yourself and you're trying to make things happen, and you have that thought that constantly keeps trying to diminish what you're trying to bring forward. Or that you're not seeing eye to eye with your friends, but you guys aren't here to destroy each other. You're here to help each other progress forward. Know that this is a blue on blue. This is friendly fire, right? Which, hey, the wounds of a friend are faithful, but the kisses of an enemy is deceitful. But a friend is not here to devour you. Okay? That's not their goal. So understand that. Keep that in mind when you're leading laterally amongst your peers, when you're leading up and down the chain of command. The mission is more important than anything else. That's the whole reason why you guys are there together. That is the bottom line. And I think this is actually a perfect segue to start getting into the bottom line and the topic at hand. Just wanted to bring in another insight that I agreed with. And actually, I agree with a lot of things that Jocko Willink says. Go check him out. He has a great podcast talking about military tactics, leadership, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and the things of the like. And hey, it might be informational and instructive for you as it has been for me. So let's move on to bottom line. What is the bottom line? See, now the bottom line changes time to time, from place to place, situation to situation, right? But essentially, the bottom line is the end all be all, the whole purpose. For a company, the bottom line might be the profit margins. For a person who is passionate about their craft, the bottom line might be putting forth the best quality materials and services. But as an individual, the bottom line seems to be around these 5 categories that I've put out, and it could be more, it could be less. You could group them together more. But here it goes. Your ethics, right? What you stand by, what you stand for, your livelihood. Are you able to maintain and continue to live the life that you stand by and that you live for? Your food, shelter, and raiment, right? Your necessities and your family, right? The people that is that strong circle that you want to protect. For most people, that is their bottom line. As long as those things are all met, everything is good. Everything is moving forward. Now you can add more things in there, like your passions, your interests, and being able to pursue those things, having a certain level of liberty. But like I said, I think that this is a pretty decent summation of a bottom line. Now, why is it important to know your bottom line as a leader or as an individual, period? Well, there's going to be times when you're tested, just like that video was going on about that person who's trying to contend. You have to understand that, is it worth engaging? Does it diminish the bottom line? If it don't diminish the bottom line, if you still get what you have to get, you still have your ethics, you're not doing anything unethical, you're not destroying your livelihood, they're not taking food off your plate, they're not taking clothes off your back, right? They're not taking your house away from you, right? If they're not destroying your family, then at the end of the day, what are they destroying? Your ego, your pride, right? A lot of times when we have these rivalries with others, it's because of pride. And that's not something you can really tolerate when you're being a leader. It makes you a really bad leader. In the aspect that someone might challenge your thought and they might have a better understanding or have a better plan to impose or a small tweak. But because you want it to be this way, and they said that, hey, maybe that way might get us to the goal faster, you make them an enemy. But they do not affect your bottom line. Why? You're there for the same goal. You're there for the same purpose. Right? And this is how we get into a lot of trouble going into the streets. I mean, when you're on the wrong side of town and someone bumps your shoulder, right? And they don't say, excuse me, or sorry. And you make a huge deal out of it. That person could be having the worst day, right? And now you are the excuse for them to allow all that anger that's been pent up to be relinquished. It's how some people lose their life because they couldn't drop that didn't affect their bottom line. By no way am I calling people to be passive, but I am calling you to be wise on what battles you do fight and what you don't fight. There's a such thing as fatigue and battle fatigue. When you fight so many different fronts, when the real battle, a hand that shifts the whole title of the war, you have no resources. You have no willpower. You have no energy because you depleted it on fronts that were useless, null and void. The bottom line is supposed to dictate the way that you engage with people. Where I find my bottom line, what a lot of the chat does, is in that Holy Scriptures. We need to understand, hey, if it's not stopping us from flourishing, then maybe it's not worth 100% of our energy. You know, and this is a great example on how things become tyrannical when people have power. Let's say, for instance, there's a problem with the employees liking to play music in their earbuds, right? It doesn't stop their productive nature, but it makes them a little unaware of their surroundings. And because the policy is that that's not allowed for them to have devices that can distract them. But music is allowed, right? There's no writing to say that there's music not allowed. Instead of that leader coming down and saying, well, hey, how about we make a playlist and we put it on a speaker and we play through the song so you guys can still be aware of what's going on around you, but you're not personally distracted by your earbuds, right? Instead of that, being able to stand back, being wise and thinking and taking into account of everything that's happening, and not moving as a fool and say, hey, guys, take all those earbuds out. I'm not having it, right? How does that make the employees look at you? How does that build the relationships that you're supposed to be having with the people that is under you and above you? You might have temporarily fixed the issue, but now you've planted the seed for rebellion, right? But if you realize, well, okay, it's not really necessarily affecting the profit margins. It's not affecting too much of their work ethic. It's just their awareness. Let's devise a plan to move forward wisely, right? And with that being said, this changes how people should lead. Understanding that the end all be all is the bottom line, and if it's not affecting the bottom line, then we do not have to attack it with 1,000% of our energy, right? And know that, hey, it might not be something worth the energy, worth the resources expended. It's very critical to take those things in mind on being a leader. And you lead on a day-to-day basis on the things that you do, on the activities that you take a hold of. And hey, some lead in the family, some lead at work, but leadership is something that we all take a part of. So knowing how to lead effectively, you first have to understand what the vision is of, well, what actually matters, right? And that's the bottom line. I didn't really want to make this too long. So with that being said, family, I hope that this was informational. This was pivotal and something that you can utilize in your self-improvement. Shalom and peace.